Hi, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. 1, it's free. 2, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. 3, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. 4, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. And 5, it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Enjoy! Hello, everyone. Welcome to Marketer Pitch, the news and trends podcast from a Vantage Black and Brown perspective. I'm Yesenia and one half of the squad. And to the opposite end of the spectrum is my good friend, partner, and co-host himself, Corey Davis.
Hi, everyone. Happy holidays. And I hope that everyone has had a blessed and safe Christmas holiday season, and looking forward to getting into hopefully a better and a better year with 2022.
Yes, definitely want to wish the Marketer Pitch family a wonderful, safe, and festive holiday season. Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy belated Hanukkah, and Happy New Year, since we are only just a few days away from 2022. Wow, Corey, I definitely, looking back in retrospect, the fact that we are completing yet another year definitely is a testament to how crazy and inauspicious this year has been.
Yeah, and one thing that's crazy is compared to last year at this exact time. I know we recorded an episode the end of 2020 going to 2021, kind of saying the same sentiments. Really, the only thing that's changed is a new president, but the rise in COVID cases at the end of last year at this time is equally the same as 2021. So I really do hope we can finally put the dangers and the perils of the pandemic behind us, and we look forward to our great 2022.
I could definitely echo those sentiments, my friend. There's so many things that are happening right now. Obviously, the resurgence of COVID cases with the Omicron variant now, and in full sight. And definitely a lot of other relevant societal factors that are currently happening. I think it's going to be really interesting to see as the overall direction as to how next year is going to be turning out. But other than that, we here at Marketer Pitch would like to welcome everybody to season 2, episode 6, aka volume 18. For those of you, if this is your first time tuning in, welcome. We're so thrilled to have you. For those who have been tuning in since from the very beginning, thank you so much. And for everybody, if you want to access this episode and as well as all previous episodes from the first half of season 2, season 1, and the intermission series Freestyle, it's available across all major podcasting mediums, our YouTube page, and as well on the Helium Radio Network every Thursday morning. So, and also, don't forget, if you haven't done so yet, please follow us at Marketer Pitch on Twitter or Instagram. We are definitely going to keep everybody updated as to any new developments in the Marketer Pitch world. And finally, if you haven't done so yet, please do download the Wisdom app, as the Marketer Pitch team is making its presence known, as we will have conversations, anything from the marketing, PR, thought leadership, or any other relevant information in across various industries. I know we haven't been there as much due to time conflicts, but we are definitely going to be working very hard into 2022 to change all that. And so we got some pretty cool ideas that are currently in discussion that we are definitely going to bring into the Wisdom family. So keep an eye on those in the coming weeks.
Yes, and then please, I know you started it with saying if this is your first episode, I do want to say welcome, but I also want to say where in the hell have you been, and please just catch up. we have some great content in the past episodes, and hopefully you'll love this episode and want to continue listening to us in 2022.
If I were you, everyone, please subscribe. I cannot even, emphasize the importance of that. If you haven't done so yet on our YouTube channel, please subscribe to Marketer Pitch, and as well as through all major podcasting mediums as well. We're live on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon, Google, Apple, Spotify, or any other major platform. Please hit the subscribe button. We could definitely use the support to continue building Marketer Pitch, because this program is all about you from a marketing and PR perspective. We definitely want to bring you into the universe, and as well as we want to develop content that that perfectly emphasizes what's going on in our respective industries. And again, on top of the wisdom map, we also got some pretty exciting content that Corey and I have been working on that we cannot wait to introduce in 2022. And so if we want to hear from you if you have any questions, thoughts, or suggestions as to the direction of Marketer Pitch, please email us at marketerpitch@gmail.com. Also, leave a review. We definitely want to hear from you. Please don't be shy. We are open to feedback, and we definitely want to make this program all the more better for you.
Yes.
All right, so let's dive into the program. We have a lot of jam-packed courses, I should say, since we are in our season 2 structure. So let's get to it. Today we're going to be for our appetizer course. We are going to be putting the focus on a particular topic that has been, that we discussed throughout season 1. And which has now, I think, further cement the overall direction as to where it's going. And I'm talking about the cinema industry. And Corey, I'm sure if you already know as to where we're going. Obviously, the latest Marvel and Sony, since it's a collaboration, Spider-Man: No Way Home ended up doing way better than anticipated. It was a monster in itself in terms of revenue and profit. Over the weekend, Spider-Man ended up being the first film in the pandemic era to make approximately $253 million on opening weekend in the box office. It ended up being the number 3 highest film on opening weekend, and then eventually it ended up cementing itself on the number 2 slot behind Avengers: Infinity War. The film ended up making $260 million. And then now this latest article from CNN Business, where Spider-Man: No Way Home is the first film to make $1 billion since 2019. And I think it's safe to say that anything that that Marvel touches turns to gold. And so Spider-Man: No Way Home, the latest movie in the Marvel franchise, crossed $1 billion at the global box office, the film studio Sony said on Sunday. The film reached the milestone just 12 days after it was released. Only 2019's Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War reached that mark in less time, 5 days and 11 days respectively. And so far, up to this point, the film has made more than 1.5 billion worldwide so far. Corey, this is no surprise. Again, everything that Marvel touches turns to gold, but it also emphasizes the power of what the Marvel brand is and how storytelling has, truly enticed and captured the audience's attention. And I wanted to get your thoughts, because we've had our fair share of discussions during season 1 about the future of the cinema industry. And so I want to grab you in here and tell me and the Marketer Pitch family your thoughts.
Yeah, so I think this is a blessing and a curse for the cinema industry, because it's a blessing, of course, where Spider-Man, I mean, who would have thought that in the pandemic, when cases are rising, this many people have flocked to the theaters to go see this film? It shows, like you just said, the level of enthusiasm, the level of passion, and the level of fandom of Marvel movies. And also, I mean, Spider-Man is a recall brand. I'll say that over. It's been, even with before Marvel, when it was clearly just a Sony movie, it's been very popular through Andrew Greenfield and Tobey Maguire in the early 2000s. But I can just say overall, it really is, like you said, thanks to Disney and thanks to Marvel coming together on this one and releasing it. It really shows that audiences are still wanting to go to the movies to see great content. Not only did Spider-Man do as well, but Sing 2, which is an animated film with, I think, Reese Witherspoon starred in it, did also equally as well. So it earned, I think, $25 million at its first weekend at the box office, coming off the Christmas holiday season. So I think the audiences are there. Now this is where it's a curse, because now it gets me to think that if this was a first or the largest film since pre-pandemic to actually hit $1 billion, it makes me think that audiences are not going to theater, not because they're scared of COVID, it's because of they're outweighing the risk of COVID going to see that film. So if the film isn't something that's high on their priority list, they'll rather stay at home. So box office in the cinema industry and cinema advertisers and cinema owners are gonna have to realize that having tentpole films throughout the whole year may not be the case anymore. It may be only 2 films a year out of the whole 365 days that will only get big audiences. And the rest of the time, they're gonna have a hard time struggling to fill those seats. And then on the other side, it's also, we're looking at this Christmas season. So are we going to get to a place where theaters are really only like, I'll say like, horrible comparison, but like church, church attendance is big on Easter and the holidays. Are we getting to a place where people are only going to go to the theaters on big holidays and during big tentpole films? And can that sustain a business having maybe a couple of months out of the whole year actually getting the bulk of your revenue? Can that sustain you in April through June, or can that sustain you through the fall? So I don't know, but I definitely feel like it's something that theater owners are probably happy about with Spider-Man, but in the back of their mind, they're like, "Oh crap, this could be a larger problem going into next year."
I find it kind of funny because if you looked at opening weekend, obviously the fact that Marvel and Sony generating 253 million and then eventually 260, which ended up being the second highest opening weekend. It was a much needed boost for the cinema and exhibition industries respectively, because since the pandemic started, many movie theaters and studios were really struggling to generate any kind of income and or revenue whatsoever. And so to have Spider-Man perform the way that it did, it definitely boosted it up from a revenue standpoint. But again, it goes right back to the discussions that we've had previously as to the continued evolution of the cinema industry. Is it becoming more of a situation where now studios are going to have to release their temple blockbusters based out of the movie going experience? Because with rises, obviously with the COVID situation continuing to linger around, with the rise of ticket prices and as well as all other relevant factors, studios are legitimately going to have to question as to whether or not if their film is a movie going experience enough for people to actually spend versus sitting at home and watching it on a streaming service. And so I think the disparity became abundantly apparent when Spider-Man ended up dominating the entire film slate that particular weekend, making obviously again about $1 million versus all of the other films that came out, like Disney's Encanto, Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, among others. They did putrid. They ended up getting cream and not generating the revenue that they anticipated. They got slaughtered, basically. And again, it goes right back to the $1 million question. whether or not the going experience has forever changed. Now, studios are going to have to decide whether or not if this particular film is revenue enough for it to debut across a film screen, and does it allow moviegoers to actually wanting to get that movie going experience to actually spend $25 on a movie ticket for them to watch it on a 50-foot screen versus watching it in the comfort of their home.
Yes, and also I think The Matrix came out this past week as well, during the Christmas holiday season, and in the celebration and the hoopla of Spider-Man doing well, Matrix, for a big box office film with a lot of promotion, actually is not doing too well, which I know some investors are raising the red flag, raising their hand that this is a cause of concern, because like you just said, even other big tentpole films that we think would do well are not doing well as Marvel. So is this really only, if Marvel's not in theaters, then theaters are going to die? And if that's the case, then are we going to see 20, 30, 40 plus Marvel films in the theaters every single year?
Yeah, and also you have to also take into account that due to the high quality of the high star quality of what Marvel puts out every single time, you have to understand that their fan base is so incredibly potent. All of these these Marvel characters, these are ones that us and our followers see from their childhood, and so this is like an experience for them to go and to see these films. The same can be said on the DC end. But Corey, is there anything else from about this particular story that you want to point out before we transition on to? I think it's safe to say that I think the movie going experience, I think, is going to be more blockbuster worthy. I think studios are really going to have to genuinely decide as to whether or not is the film from a profit standpoint very high quality enough for people to go into the movie theaters.
Yeah, and I think it's one thing we just have to stay close to it, and it would be great in our back half of our season 2 of Marketer Pitch that we just do a deep dive and maybe make our entree just more of about the cinema industry and our thoughts on how can it be survived and saved, and if not, what is the future of advertising in cinemas, and also the marketing and PR of cinema industry. Where does it go from here?
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, we'll definitely put a bow into it, and we will definitely pick up this discussion again during the second half of season 2. So this is definitely one that cannot be missed. So that wraps up our appetizer segment. And now we move on to the entree course, where we are now going to be entering into what I like to call sports mania next year, and also a sneak peek into the beginning of the second half of season 2. We got 2 major sporting events that are going to be happening literally simultaneously one another. And that is the Super Bowl 56. If I'm saying it correctly, Corey, please correct me if I'm not. And the Winter Olympics, which will be held this year in Beijing, China. And already we are seeing controversies coming out of these winter games. Obviously, the fact that obviously with the COVID, with still living in the COVID pandemic era, and now news that that also spawned up where we've had various Western countries, including the United States, Canada, Great Britain, among others, notifying the world that they are issuing a diplomatic boycott of the Winter Olympics due to human rights violations that China has done. And so, Corey, I wanted to bring this to light, since we're going to be putting a lot of from a marketing and a PR standpoint, there's going to be a lot of heavy emphasis in terms of the overall messaging, and we also touched base on this when we did our freestyle series about the Tokyo Games. I
Mhm.
definitely think that the messaging is definitely gonna it's definitely going to border on the neutral. Uh, but uh, but is it going to be, is it going to be polarized? Like with what everything that has been happening here or over the last several years. And so, Corey, want to bring you into the loop. What are your thoughts about this? And what does this foreshadow for the 2022 Winter Games?
So at the end, and like you said, we definitely talked about this on our freestyle series. So I would encourage everyone to go back into our intermission series, season 1.5, to go listen to that series because we had some great back and forth and some great rapport. But on this
Mm-hmm.
particular topic, one thing that I mentioned that I was just initially shocked after the Olympics, it was how brands kind of seem to ignore the pandemic or ignore the fact that we're
Mm-hmm.
celebrating a 2021 Olympics but calling it 2020. So all of that was kind of ignored in the for the almighty dollar and ignored just to make an impact. And I think we're going to see the same thing from the next Beijing Olympics coming up in February, and then also the Super Bowl. For
Yeah.
brands, I think right now brands are more trying to. If you look at the kind of the marketing and the PR around it, they're kind of tossing to an optimistic tone. And I think this
Mm-hmm.
is like once future college kids when they're studying what happened during the pandemic and how and from a marketing, advertising, PR standpoint, what um, was actually happening with brands. You're going to see an evolution because starting in 2020, brands take a more serious tone where they were dealing with the initial onset of the pandemic and then dealing with the riots and then dealing with the injustices with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna
Mm-hmm.
Taylor. So a lot of brands were kind of taking a note from it. Where I think now we've almost gone on 180, and brands are kind of saying, "I want to just stay out of everything, and I want to live life in a non-pandemic, in a non crazy world, and my messaging is going to be reflective of that." So
Yeah.
while a few brands have pulled out of, I have pulled out of Super Bowl this year, majority of them have said that either they're going to have a commercial, like Tide said they're not going to have a commercial, but they're going to have on the ground activations. So you're still going to see brands very activated. You're still going to see brands in the Super Bowl. In the Super Bowl, you're going to see brands in the Olympics because at the end of the day, you're really getting to what these companies are. They're corporations whose end of the day goal is to make money. And as marketers, our job is we may not agree with that. So I may not agree with certain standpoints, but our job is to support those messaging. And if the brand and the audiences are feeling that they want to move away or they don't care about some of these issues that we're talking about, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
the injustices going on in China and Beijing and how they treat their citizens, also the things that are still happening with the Super Bowl, rising COVID cases, the firing of coaches like John Gruden, who said racist, homophobic, and sexist comments, to players who, also another Raiders player who killed someone when he was drinking and driving. So those issues that happened in the Super Bowl this year, excuse me, in the NFL, are not going to be reflected in 2022. When you look at this, you're going to think that this is a great year and the brands are going to reflect that.
Yeah, I think I find it kind of funny because from a PR standpoint, many brands continue to walk that tightrope where the neutral ground in terms of messaging is still trying to sort itself out. I think we're seeing brands either being very vocal as to important societal issues and being at the forefront of it, I should say, or they are not responding to it at all because they legitimately do not know the overall spectrum of the topic or topics, or they just don't want to shoot themselves in the foot because they don't want to tell a story that at the end can cause backlash. And obviously, if you're going to look from a crisis comm standpoint, the last thing that you need to be doing is saying something that could come back and bite you in the end, and it could really balloon into a real life crisis. And so I think heading not only into the 22 Olympic Games, but also for the Super Bowl, I think it's going to be, continuing on the sort of optimism. But I think there's still going to be a lot of uncertainty because brands legitimately do not know where they stand. And due to the polarization, I think many people are fatigued, Corey. I think it's, many
Mm-hmm.
people are sick and tired of hearing, important societal issues or politics in general being tied into major cultural events. I think the story, with the diplomatic boycott that some of these Western countries are doing is it's another clear-cut example that politics continues to reign supreme on cultural events, and many people are just sick and tired of, having, the toxicity of politics being interwoven onto major cultural objectives. And so many people are, just want to be entertained. And so I think brands right now are, trying to decide the direction as to whether or not do they continue being vocal, or do they, keep on the lowdown and not say anything at all, but instead try to figure out a way to be neutral. And I think, companies need to have a pulse on absolutely every single platform or avenue there is, because in order for them to position themselves from a messaging and storytelling standpoint to hit their targeted or universal audiences, they need to have a clear-cut understanding as to what their audience is feeling, and what do they want to see. Because at the end of the day, it's going to come down to how their audience reacts to certain products, the storytelling element that ties to it, and of course the financial background. Companies will ultimately decide as to whether or not is this profitable, is it something that is going to generate money, and is it going to further elevate my brand from a reputation standpoint. They have to weigh the pros and the cons.
Yeah, and I think that um, most brands, like you just said, because of audiences are do kind of have fatigue as far as wanting to brands to talk about politics and wanting brands to talk about the pandemic. And I think I even said in the passing in the previous episode about how brands who don't have the best representation should even go into the political landscape because they're not speaking clearly and correctly to the issue.
Yeah.
So I even said that in the past. So I kind of agree with that sentiment. But I just personally want to see some kind of acknowledgement of what's going on in society in your advertising, in your messaging, because it really builds a connection and it shows that some of these brands that I love, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
going through certain issues, brands that I love are also going through that, and just brings more affinity down the line and support versus ignoring what's going on with the consumers.
Yeah, brands cannot run away with it, and that's a dead set truth. You're gonna have to acknowledge it at some capacity. I think by now, brands should have an idea as to how the pandemic has transpired, and as well as other societal issues. That from a company standpoint, if your employees feel very passionate about it, and if you feel passionate as well, 100% go and be the thought leaders in that arena. Um, but uh, but I always say is that authenticity matters in the PR world, and so I think truth is matters now more than ever. Everything right now is too heavily narrative based, where perception and public opinion has been severely tarnished. Many people just don't trust these institutions anymore, and so it's up to these companies to decide as to what exactly is going to be their brand voice and story, and how do they interconnect with audiences in a way that's relatable, that's authentic, and also well aware as to what's going on in this world. And I think, as we, enter into the second half of the season where we have these two major sporting events, I think we're going to be doing a much deeper dive, as to how the overall messaging, the advertising, and the PR aspects of it, how do brands do differently than in previous years.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep, and so that wraps up our second segment, the entree. Corey, I think it is safe to say we have laid down the groundwork for what I think is going to be a killer kickoff to the second half of our season.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to, I'm looking forward to a little break in January, but also looking forward to coming back in February with an action-packed, slate of episodes, because I think we have some really good content upcoming for the audiences.
Yes, and before we wrap up, this particular episode, I want us to quickly dive into the dessert portion, where obviously we're about to start a new year, 2022, and so Corey, I want to get quickly. It could be either one word or a small little phrase. Tell me what is in your mind. What is going What is your 2022 prediction for where the marketing industry is going to go?
I think the marketing industry is going to finally you're going to start seeing more coming out of this pandemic. I think with the Omicron variant, while it's very contagious, more so than Delta and just the initial COVID-19 string, the cases are less mild. So I'm hoping, and I think the prediction is by summer of next year, while you may see cases rise, I don't think hospitalizations will go up, hopefully, with more increased vaccination levels. All that to say, I think from a branding standpoint, you're going to see kind of a celebrational tone, and you're going to start seeing brands really just highlight support, whether it's different initiatives that they're looking to increase, whether it's summer vacations. So I think you're going to see that the first half of the year, and unfortunately, this latter half of the year, we have the 2022 midterm elections coming up, and if that was anything like 2020 and the contentiousness around it, I think you're going to see from the late summer to the early fall a lot of political messaging, and that's going to start to come back. So I think it's going to be a tale of Jekyll and Hyde when it comes to the industry.
Well, for me personally, coming from the PR lens, I think 2022. There's definitely going to be a lot of critical communication trends from these certain arenas. Number one, DEI. I think it's become abundantly clear that companies need clear-cut strategy in terms as to their diversity, equity, and inclusion objectives. Number two, wellness and mindfulness. I think now with the arrival of the remote and hybrid models, and as well as employees dealing with burnout and other relevant situations tied to mental health. I think companies now need to be much more upfront in terms of the mindfulness and wellness strategies, how they're keeping employees well informed, updated and active, and as well as the policies that we're going to be witnessing, like unlimited PTO, and other very popular procedures and policies that employees are definitely going to be striving for. Technology, I think it's become abundantly clear it's no longer IT. I think it's now part of the everyday messaging. And so where does tech tie into company strategies? And finally, corporate responsibility. I think brands need to have a very clear indication as to who they are, what they represent, the mission and values, and how does it all tied to their overall business plans. So I definitely think we're going to be seeing a lot of important critical communications from those specific arenas that are going to be heavily prominent in the PR industry for next year.
Agree. I think that's a good prediction that we should come back to next year.
Absolutely. And that wraps up our quick dessert on the go segment. So just wanted to get that squeezed in there before we officially wrap up the show. And guess what? We have finally arrived to that point. To our marketer pitch family, I think it's safe to say that the first half of our second season is nothing short but amazing. And Corey, is there any final words before we officially sign off for our hiatus?
No, I think hope everyone has a blessed new year, and looking forward to picking up the conversation in February.
Thank you, Corey. And you definitely hit that right on the nail. Thank you so much to our Marketer Pitch family for tuning in to the first half of season number 2. And yes, as Corey mentioned, the Marketer Pitch team will officially be on hiatus, and we will return with all new episodes and the second half kickoff to season 2 of Marketer Pitch in February 2022. And so we cannot wait to continue bringing all of these conversations to you, and as well as some surprises. So if you have not yet, again, please subscribe to Marketer Pitch across major podcasting mediums and our YouTube page. Follow us at Marketer Pitch on Twitter or Instagram, because we will officially reveal some really cool surprises, including the season 2, the official season 2, volume 19, aka episode 7 kickoff in February. And don't forget, catch up on all of these episodes on the Helium Radio Network, and as well as download the Wisdom app, where the Marketer Pitch team will continue the conversations there. Well, that wraps it up. Corey, any last words?
No. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in February.
Thank you. And on behalf of Corey and myself, thank you all so very much for tuning in to Volume 18. We will see you all for Season 2, Volume 19, aka Episode 7, and the second half, a kickoff to Season 2 in February 2022. Thank you again, everyone. Happy holidays, Happy New Year, and we'll see you in February. Bye.
Bye.